Let me come back to the thing with the 80s and the early Apple
Yeah.
computers. When I started out programming computers, we had 5¼ inch floppy disks.
Right.
And before that, people had spools of tape in the other room. And we gradually realized that we had started out with this idea of computing where storage was totally separate from processing, and output was totally separate from the input data. And we realized this was a mistake. It took us 30 years to fix it one piece at a time. So first get the tape in the same room, then make it floppy disks, then hard drives, layer 2 cache, more RAM inside the hard drive controllers. And so, putting dedicated memory in the video cards. All of these things are converging processing and storage. And the reason we do that is that fundamentally the speed of light is the enemy. Right? The space between your data and the environment where you compute it is the only limiting factor that matters. And the more data we have and the more processing we want to do on that data, the more this is the central problem. And so we've been converging this for years and years and years and getting it closer and closer together. We finally got into converged networking, fiber channels getting faster and faster, 10 gig Ethernet comes down in cost, and then we make this leap in this other side into cloud, into multi-tenancy and agility and driving infrastructure from APIs, and there's this critical mistake made where they separate EC2 and EBS. They separate EC2 and S3, the different classes of API. They're not even run by the same groups inside Amazon, and they set us back 30 years in data locality. And that model of separating compute and storage got copied by almost everyone who came into cloud after Amazon. Said, oh, well, yeah, these are two totally different sets of resources. And what happens is you see all of these folks who were early adopters of AWS who ran into performance problems around data locality and why is EBS so slow? Well, it's because it's a giggy link between the two environments. And they left.
And it's not even full duplex.
It's half duplex. And they went back to dedicated infrastructure. And so one of the things that's really exciting about OpenStack, as opposed to VMware, when we talk about storage characteristics, is that we have object storage and block storage and networking and computing capabilities in a single project where we can start doing intelligent things with data locality. And it's really the same intelligence at the algorithm side that MapReduce has brought to the data analytics community, but applied to the infrastructure level. That's super exciting for me, and that I don't think is something VMware is ever in a position to address. I mean, they could. From a technology standpoint, they've got a lot of smart people. But I think culturally, their relationship with storage is somewhat tense.
It would have to be a different brand entirely, almost. I mean, you know, what are you gonna? You're not gonna call that VMware. You'd have to call it whatever your brand name you give it.
Yeah, I mean, they're really married to, and especially every systems integrator and every reseller of VMware in the world is married to this model of, oh, it's VMware and NetApp, or it's VMware and EMC, or it's VMware and an HP SAN. And those SANs and NetApp filers have great margins. They're really expensive high-ticket items. And you contrast that with, oh, well, there's one class of server that's JBOD that is providing highly available storage because it's distributed and it's replicated, and almost infinitely scale-out object storage, and all my compute capability. And I'm buying one class of gear from one vendor, so I have the maximum amount of leverage on how much I'm spending for that hardware. And it's tough for the existing SIs and resellers to look at that and say, well, okay, well, this is great for the end user. This is an amazingly powerful solution for the end user because all this thing that used to be expensive hardware is now just interesting software. But where are my margins? Right? If I'm not selling an EMC SAN, what am I selling?